Have you ever looked at a leader, maybe an unpopular one, and just wondered, how are they still in charge? Well, it turns out there's a kind of logic to it. In fact, you could almost say there's a formula for political survival.
So, is there really a secret formula? It sounds a little bit like something out of a movie, I know, but believe it or not, political scientists have actually come up with one. And what it shows is that a leader's grip on power often has very little to do with charisma or even popularity, and a whole lot more to do with just cold, hard math. And here it is. I know at first glance that looks incredibly intimidating. It's a wall of symbols. But don't worry. Our mission today is to be code breakers. We're going to take this whole thing apart piece by piece, and I promise you're going to see the simple and pretty ruthless logic hiding inside. Okay, so the first thing to get is that this isn't just random math. This entire equation, it tells a story. It represents one fundamental choice that's faced by the very small group of people who actually keep a leader in power. Yep, this whole thing boils down to a single question for a leader's most important supporters. Is it a better deal for me to stay loyal to the current boss? Or should I risk it all and back a challenger? This formula is just a tool designed to calculate the most logical answer.
But before we can really dig into the numbers, we have to meet the cast of characters in this high-stakes political drama. Who are these key supporters we keep talking about, and where do they come from?
First up, we have what's called the Selectorate. You can just think of this as the entire pool of people who have at least some say in picking the leader. In a big democracy, that's pretty much all the eligible voters. In a dictatorship, it might be all the top military brass and party officials. It's the whole group of potential kingmakers. But here's the catch. A leader doesn't need to keep everyone in that big Selectorate happy. Not even close. They only need to keep a much, much smaller group satisfied. And that is the winning coalition. These are the essentials, the inner circle, the people whose support is completely non-negotiable. And any leader who knows what they're doing tries to keep this winning coalition as small as they can possibly get away with. Why? Well, it's simple economics. Think about it like a pizza. If you only have to split it with a few people instead of a huge crowd, everyone gets a massive slice. The bigger the reward for each person, the more loyal they're going to be.
All right, now that we know the players, let's jump back to our formula. We're going to start with the left side of that equation. This part is all about calculating the prize. What's the actual payoff for a supporter who decides to stay loyal? You see, the reward for loyalty really comes in two flavors. First, there are the things that benefit pretty much everyone. But then there are the exclusive perks, the special rewards that are only for that inner circle. And here's that critical difference. Public goods, that's the X in our formula, are things like national security or clean air. They're great, but everybody gets them. The real incentive, the thing that buys loyalty, is the G, the private goods. This is the pot of money, the government contracts, the power, and it only gets divided among the W, the members of the winning coalition.
So what about this weird fraction at the front? This little piece of the puzzle is incredibly important. We can call it the longevity multiplier. It's kind of like a magic calculator that takes all the future rewards a supporter expects to get and tells them what that whole stream of goodies is worth in today's money. Think of it this way. $1 in your pocket right now is always more valuable than the promise of $1 next year. That little Greek letter, delta, just represents how much we discount the future. So this formula adds up the reward you get today, plus the slightly less valuable one next year, and the even less valuable one the year after that, and it bundles it all into one solid number. It's the total present value of your loyalty. Okay, so that's a pretty sweet deal for staying loyal. But what about the other side of the coin? Let's look at the other side of the equation now, the defector's gamble. What can a challenger possibly offer to convince someone to betray their boss and take that huge risk? Because if you're one of those key supporters, you have to weigh the sure thing from your current leader against what is a very risky bet from a challenger. And the math shows us there are two huge disadvantages to making that bet. Risk number one, and this is a big one, the payoff is delayed. A defector doesn't get paid immediately. The rewards from a new leader only start to flow after they actually manage to take power. That delay makes the entire prize less valuable from today's perspective, which is why their multiplier is a little bit worse. It's been discounted by time. And risk number two, and honestly, this is the killer, you might just get kicked out.
There is absolutely no guarantee that the new leader will include you in their winning coalition. They can pick anyone they want from that whole big selectorate, so your chance of getting back into the inner circle is just W divided by S. In most systems, that's a real long shot. And history is just littered with the ghosts of people who made this exact miscalculation. Think of figures like Danton in the French Revolution or Trotsky in the Russian Revolution. These were guys who were absolutely essential to bringing a new leader to power. And what happened to them? The second they weren't useful anymore, they were cast aside. Or worse. It goes to show you, betrayal is a risky business. Okay, so we've broken down both sides of the choice now. We have the safe, valuable payoff for loyalty and the risky, delayed gamble of defection. So let's put them head-to-head for the final showdown and see why the math almost always favors the person who's already in charge. And when you actually look at them side by side, the incumbent's advantage is just crystal clear. The loyalist gets guaranteed immediate rewards and a secure position. The defector is gambling on delayed rewards with a huge risk of being completely excluded. The math just doesn't lie. So when a key supporter does this cold, hard math, the logical, rational, self-interested choice is almost always to just stick with the devil you know. The certain rewards of today are simply worth more than the risky promises of tomorrow.
And that's it. The leader survives. This whole thing reveals the ruthless logic that keeps leaders in power. It's not about being loved by the people. It's about structuring the system so that for your most important backers, defecting is just a mathematically terrible deal. But that brings up a really fascinating question, right? If the math is this clear, if the formula is this powerful, it seems like a leader should almost never be overthrown. But we know that's not true. So what is this perfect logical model missing about our messy real world? Well, the real world intervenes. The formula is a fantastic tool, but it assumes a stable, predictable world, and our world is anything but. It can't account for chaos. A sudden economic crash could make a leader's promised rewards completely worthless. A sudden illness could dramatically change the value of that longevity multiplier. The model assumes stability, but reality is full of these shocks. And it's in those moments of chaos, when all the numbers on the board suddenly change, that a challenger finally has an opening to strike.